Hello, BookTube friends. Welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth. Happy Friday. It's time for Friday Reads. Well, I did actually do a little bit of filming yesterday. I filmed a January wrap-up, and I was just going to go ahead and combine that with Friday Reads and upload it today. And I finished filming, and I was watching it again just to make sure it was all good, and I realized I had left out a book. Well, at that point, it was too late to film. I was needing to get dinner ready and all that, so I'm coming to you this morning, Friday morning. I've got a big day. I have to drive my lady to do her hair and groceries, and then go straight from there to sub for half a day at my daughter's former middle school, and then pick up Emily, and then maybe get a little bit of reading time while we're in the car waiting for Katie, because she is now, as of this week, in the production, her school's production of Beauty and the Beast. They just started rehearsing this week. So she's gone back to dance class, and now they have rehearsals twice a week, and then dance class the third day of the week, and everything else. So anyway, it's going to be a busy day, and so this is really my only chance to do this until like late tonight. But I want to quickly just kind of give you a January wrap up. Most of these books I already talked about in all my Friday Reads videos this month. I finished 13 books, and then a little over half of 2 others, and then when I get done telling you about all of those, then I will talk about what I'm currently reading, which is, for the most part, the few books that I carried over from January, and I started a new one yesterday. So, real quick, what I read in January. The first book is the only one I don't have an example to show you, because it was just a little library book, and my local library didn't have it. It was going to have to be ordered from one of the other county libraries, and I just couldn't get it here in time. But it was a little tiny book that my husband had checked out called A Short Guide to a Happy Life by Anna Quindlen. I wanted that to be my very first book of the year, so that at the end of the year, when it comes back up on Goodreads and says, you know, your first and last review of the year, that is just a really good one to be the first book of the year. It's important. It was just a quick little reminder of living life to the fullest, and you know, not letting busyness get in the way, which I know I tend to do, and just appreciating life. And I thought it was great. I would definitely recommend it, and it would probably take you not even an hour to read. It's just a little bitty short book. Then for the first 2 days of January, I actually read completely 4 books. So there was that one. That was my first print book. And then my first audiobook was a Christmas themed book. In fact, all 3 of the others were Christmas-themed books. And it was one that was not on my Christmas Advent unwrapping. It wasn't part of the unwrappings or anything. It was just one I found at the library. And I had, if you remember, the last couple of days of the month, I knew I wasn't going to finish all my Advent books. So I went to the library and just combed the shelves of the audiobook shelves and tried to find Christmas-themed books that were not very long, so that I could meet my goal of 250 books for the year, and I did. So this one I checked out that day, but I didn't get it read or listened to until January 1st. And I listened to this while I was working on our jigsaw puzzles and everything. This is Comfort and Joy by Kristen Hanna. I didn't know until I got into it that it actually has a little bit of a magical, supernatural element to it, which I enjoyed. And it's kind of a story of escape, someone running away, and redemption. And our main character is just trying to get away, and she gets on a plane and just to get away from everything, and she ends up getting in an accident. She goes and she gets herself away from the accident and finds a young boy and his father. They kind of live out in a remote area, and so they kind of nurse her back to health. And she doesn't have any, I'm trying to remember how much of her memory she's lost. She has some amnesia and that type of thing. So, anyway, I enjoyed it a lot. The only other Kristen Hanna book I've ever read is Winter Garden, and I really want to read The Nightingale. So anyway, I won't go into a whole lot of detail about the other books, because like I said, I've already talked about them in my Friday Reads, but just kind of go over briefly. I also read The Purpose of Christmas by Rick Warren. This is just a really nice, not over preachy book about Christianity and what it's all about. I loved it. I thought it was excellent, and it made me realize that I've never actually fully read cover to cover The Purpose Driven Life, and I've got a copy, and I need to go back and get that read, hopefully this year. But this was great. Then the other little short audiobook that I read, now, by the way, I read this one in print. I didn't have an audiobook for this one. Then on January 2nd, I believe, I read the full-length version of The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. I couldn't get a copy of that chapter book from the library, but the librarian showed me this one, which I haven't read. I didn't even know it existed, and I'm going to read this ASAP. This is so cute. This is a picture book version of The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, and I did not even know it existed. It's so cute. I am just tickled with this series so far. I loved the first book. I have the second book that I have, it's checked out on audio from Hoopla right now, and I picked up the print copy yesterday at the library. So I'll be reading both of these this month. So I highly recommend this very, very much. Okay, so the rest of the Christmas books that I read throughout the month, I'll show you those next. I had 3 others that I completed. These were all part of my Christmas Advent unwrappings. Rest Ye Murdered Gentlemen, the first book in the year-round Christmas mystery series by Vicki Delaney. I enjoyed that. And I've already talked about this some, The Gift by Cecilia Ahern. This wouldn't really necessarily have to be read at Christmas time. It ends at Christmas. Well, it kind of starts and ends at Christmas. It's a little disjointed at times, but there is some kind of supernatural, magical realism in it. I thought it was really good. It's about a businessman who's too busy for his family, and kind of that journey to discovering that that he has got things backwards, and I enjoyed that a lot. Then A Very Dairy Christmas by Sylvia Hyson. This was a little problematic in parts. There was some of the conversations and things I didn't care for. There was some of the wording and the name calling and just discussions about looks and body types and things like that. I didn't care for. However, it's probably not that far from realistic as far as conversations that people would have. I don't know. There was one part that was actually kind of funny, but at the same time, I was like, oh, she shouldn't have said that. It was the assistant to, okay, the main character is a teenager. Her mother is a high fashion photographer. So our main character, the teenager, she ends up having to go to spend Christmas with her grandparents, who she hasn't seen since she was very young, maybe 5. And now she's, I think, 16 and, or 15, something like that. Anyway, she is, a spoiled rich kid from New York and didn't want to go to Wisconsin to a dairy farm to spend Christmas at all. And so then we also get a glimpse of what's going on with her mother at her job at the same time, kind of simultaneously. So there was one part where the photographer and her assistant were having to wait because they were in some other country and there was a snowstorm and they were almost done with the shoot, but then they had to just kind of put everything on hold and wait out the weather. And the models were getting restless and, a little bit full of themselves. And so the photographer's assistant kind of lets them have it. And she calls them, this is a little bit of name calling, which, like I said, it was kind of funny, but at the same time, she shouldn't have done it. She calls them like beanpole, toothpick, and something else, and chubs. And, there was like 3 that were really skinny and apparently one that, was probably still very skinny, but by model standards, maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, it was kind of cute, but at the same time, it was demeaning. And I know that people in that industry have a hard enough time with body type and body image as it is. So, I'm sure it goes on. I'm sure it happens. I know I work in the theme park industry, and there's all kinds of, you just have to get thick skin. You really do, because people are always joking around, and sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not. So it's just one of those things. The book itself could have had a little more polish to it. I don't know if it was self-published or what. It says in the back that there's supposed to be a sequel, but this was published in, I think, 2005, and I couldn't see any evidence of a sequel on Goodreads. I would still read it. I would enjoy reading it, I think. It was a fun story. I love the cover. The cover is definitely what drew me to the book, and I hope that a sequel does come out at some point. So that is that, and I talked a little bit more about it because I just finished that on the 31st. Then I mentioned already that I read one nonfiction book at the beginning of the year, beginning of the month, beginning of the year, same thing. And I also had 2 other nonfiction books for the month. One of them was on Hoopla. Let's see if I can pull it up. It was just a little short book on the ketogenic diet. It was a ketogenic diet beginner's guide, and I have done the Atkins before, which is basically the ketogenic diet scaled down. I've done some research into the ketogenic diet. We tried it with our daughter who has epilepsy, and so there wasn't really anything in this that I didn't already know regarding it, but I just wanted to kind of give me a little kickstart because we have finally gotten back on Atkins. So it did the trick of getting me back into that mindset. And then the other nonfiction book I read, I listened to it on audio on Hoopla. It's Mess by Barry Yorgrau. One man's struggle to clean up his house and his act. This was pretty good. I liked it because I enjoy this topic. I'm fascinated by this topic. I struggle with this topic. And it wasn't the most compelling narrative I've ever read, but because I like this topic, I enjoyed it overall. So then I read 2 middle grade adventure stories. I listened to Kingdom Keepers, Disney After Dark. It's the first in the Kingdom Keepers series by Ridley Pearson. I have read this before, listened to it before. I just started over with the series, and I'm getting ready to start book 2 today. I will take the audiobook to my car and get going on that. This is fun. It's about some kids who have, they were hired to be Disney hosts, only it's not them actually who are hosts. Through the magic of Disney technology, they were filmed and their images are being used as holographic hosts throughout the park. So now when they go to bed, they wake up in the park and they're half hologram and half human, which was not what they expected. Something has gone wrong, and now their help is needed to kind of thwart the attempts of the Overtakers, which are basically Disney villains. And I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but it's basically they have a quest. They thought that once they had themselves filmed as hosts, then they were going to be done, and now they're being sucked back into this kind of a evil side of this Disney world that they didn't know about, that they didn't know was real, and it's real according to this. So I'm gonna finish that series hopefully this year. There's 7 in the first series, and then there's a spin-off series which I've started collecting, and it's really good. Really, I enjoy it. Then I also reread A Wrinkle in Time for I think the 3rd time, and now I want to continue with the rest of the series. I have not ever read any more in the series, and I plan to this time. And now, now I can see the movie after refreshing myself of what goes on in that book. And I read 2 mystery, maybe thrillers. I don't know if you consider this one a thriller. I read The Cutting Season by Attica Locke. I enjoyed it a lot. Just really interesting dynamic, a modern day plantation that they use for reenactments. There's a murder that's has happened on the plantation grounds, and there's also an old mystery regarding the main character's ancestor who used to be a slave on this plantation. And so it's very good. I enjoyed it a lot. It's very atmospheric. And then I read the Midnight at the Bright Ideas Bookstore by Matthew Sullivan. I said in my Friday Reads a week or 2 ago that this was more of a depressor than a thriller, but I thought it was very compelling. I enjoyed it. It has lots of themes that I thought were important, and just kind of a butterfly effect, because as you go through and you understand the mystery and you start kind of putting it all together, you realize that one irresponsible act can basically ruin the lives of a lot of people, or at least make their lives very tragic and unhappy. So there's a lot to think about when you think about this book. So that I thought was very good. And I read this a month late for Lisa's Buddy Reads, and I need to go back on now and comment to her Goodreads group. So I think that's all I read that I finished. Now I still have a little bit to go in Lonesome Dove. I've been following along pretty good with the read along, although I have to admit that this week I got way ahead. So I am already almost done with next week's section, and I just keep picking it back up. I keep saying, okay, I'm going to put it down and I'll read something else. And I keep picking it back up because it's so good. So I will probably have that done early. And then I also have finally picked back up with the second story in Love Finds You Under the Mistletoe. It's really good. It's about a woman, she's 30, but when she was a baby, her biological mother left her on the doorstep of a shop. And so the shop owner comes out, finds the baby, and raises it. And so this is her now. She's 30, and I'm still just like I've read 5 chapters, and a novelist has shown up at their shop wanting to write her story. Well, her story is not anything that ever really gets talked about out loud. It's kind of a taboo subject, but she's been having nightmares about it. You know, why did my mother leave me and all that kind of stuff, even though she's had a basically happy life with her father. And he's not her biological father, at least she doesn't think that he is. I don't know. Maybe he'll turn out to be. I have no idea. But I like it so far. It's a good story. So I will keep working on that. And then the other book I started yesterday is wonderful. I am reading this with Amber from Amber Eats Books. We read the first 2 chapters yesterday, and I was listening to it and I was shopping, and I accidentally finished chapter 3 on audio, but I'm going back. I went back this morning and I'm just reading it in print. I'll probably still listen to some of it on audio, but I realized that this is one of those books that I really just need to enjoy every little detail, and it's so cute. I think this is really going to be every bit as good as Marley and Me. It's just the cat version. It's very well written. The author, Bob Tart, just has a way with words and describing his cats and their personalities. It starts right out with the cats of characters, where he introduces all of his cats. And the thing I thought was so true is he tells you the cat's name and a little bit about them, and then all of their nicknames. And that is absolutely true. You know, we have 7 cats, and they all have a name. And yet they all have other nicknames that we call them at different times and in different circumstances and different situations. I don't know why. That's just something we do, and apparently we're not the only ones. So I am just really, really enjoying this, and so I'm so tickled that I'm getting to buddy read this with Amber, because even though I listened to some of it on audio already, I realized that because I read her comments last night, and I've still got a comment back to her. Just in the stuff she commented, I thought, oh, I missed that. I didn't catch that. So I missed a good bit on audio when I was trying to multitask, and I got to go back and read it in print too. So this is really fun. So let me hold up my books. Actually, I don't know. I'm not going to even do that. I was going to hold up my books, but I don't know. I finished 13 books, and let's just go with that. There were, and just to give you the stats, 6.5 Christmas books, and 2 mystery thrillers, 3 nonfiction, and 2 middle grade adventures. Then from books I started in January that I carried over, I already mentioned Lonesome Dove and Under the Mistletoe. Then I also have one on my Hoopla account, an ebook that I had only read about 20% of, and it's not even very long. I think it only has maybe 100 pages on, 100 e-pages. So I just kept forgetting to pick it back up, and I don't know why I never did, but it's called, oh dear, Declutter for Good. And I think what this means is, I realize it's kind of a play on words. At first when I read it, I thought, oh, declutter for good. Like, that's it. I'm done, done decluttering, which is really not possible, I don't think. But what this means is do good with your decluttering. Donate your things, recycle your things, make a difference as you declutter. And I think that's awesome. I'm definitely in favor of that. So now I will... I already kind of mentioned what I'm reading this week. Going forward, I'm going to finish the books that I have started. And I'm going to try not to finish Lonesome Dove too early. I may anyway, but I don't know. Then, what else? Then the next audiobook after the Kingdom Keepers 2, I've got to get this done. Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. This is for book club for this month. And then my next book club for the mystery book club is Still Life by Louise Penny. I've got to get that done soon and get going on my Sunshine State books. So I was at the library yesterday, and the president of the Friends of the Library was in the workroom, so it was open, and I went in there and poked around a little bit, and I did buy one book. It is Rosemary for Remembrance by Sunny Jeffers. This is, I think, book 26 in the Tales from Grace Chapel Inn series, which is a series that is published by Guidepost. And I haven't read any of this series, but I've been collecting them, and I didn't have that one. And then yesterday I got 2 books in the mail. I know what one of them is, and I don't know what the other one is. It was a total surprise. But the first one I'll show you. My friend that gave me my first copy of Jesus Calling, which I read last year from cover to cover. She's a retired missionary. She used to live in, well, I met her here in the States, and then she went to be a missionary in Africa for a long time, and now she's retired and back home. I was at her house the other day, and because a couple of her kids were visiting, and I was telling her, that I had finally finished Jesus Calling, and she said, oh, well, then you need to read the next one, Jesus Lives, Seeing His Love in Your Life. And she has it on her Kindle, so she gave me this copy, but then I accidentally left it at her house, and so she mailed it to me, which was so sweet. So thank you, Lynn, so much for this. So this is another devotional book. Now, I've already started the Billy Graham book for this year, so I'll probably will not do this one until next year, because I have just started now my reading through the Bible, but I'm so excited to have that. So sweet of her. And then I got a package in the mail from Katherine, from Jane Katherine on Books. This has come all the way across the pond, and I don't have any idea what book she is sending me. It's so sweet of her, because she already actually sent me a couple of books before Christmas, and I have some stuff for her that is I have some stuff for a lot of you, and I think I already mentioned this before, and I'm so sorry, those of you, I got all your addresses. I'm still going to mail it. I've still got all this stuff to mail you, but I had to clear off my dining table for company, and then Christmas happened and all that, and I had to squirrel everything away in different corners, and now it's all just a mess. So I've got to pull everything out, pile it back up on my table, and sort it all out again, and get it packaged up and get it mailed. So anyway, Katherine, I have something for you too. So she has sent me something. So let's see what it is. It is, why don't you see it before me? This looks fun. It looks like a cozy mystery. A Death in the Dales by Frances Brody. A Kate Shackleton mystery. How fun. Just in time for March Mystery Madness. And Katherine is going to be one of our new hosts this year for March Mystery Madness. If you are not familiar with her channel, she has a series called Cozy Crime with Katherine. And she sits in her chair and talks about cozy crime and cozy mysteries. And she's just got a wonderful soothing voice to listen to, and so you should definitely check her out. So thank you so much, Katherine. This is awesome. I have never heard of this. It says Frances Brody has made it to the top rank of crime writers by Daily Mail. So thank you. It looks like there's some others in the series, and I'm super excited. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. This was a complete surprise, totally unexpected. So that's all I have for this video. I better get this uploaded and get to work. So that I hope you're having a great day. I will see you soon. We'll be announcing the challenges and everything for March Mystery Madness in about a week from now. So be on the lookout for that. We have almost 20 new hosts. So we are going to just take BookTube by storm, and I can't wait. So that's all I have for this video. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Read a good book, and God bless you.